Alright guys, been a long night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, but I got the cowl installed, at least as much as I'm going to. Like I said, I didn't do any welding up here because I want to be able to have a little bit of movement if I need it. I don't know how much movement I'm going to get out of it, but we'll see. But anyhow, I didn't weld it there just in case I need to move it, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch or whatever, I don't know. But the way it fit, after working on it for a while to get it to fit this way, it fits pretty good, so I think I'll be okay with it. So let me go over some things with this so you guys kind of know what to do or what to expect if you ever decide to do this yourself. Okay. So again, let me back this out. I didn't weld from here all the way to the front. I haven't welded anything there, but I marked the holes on the inside. Remember when I took the old cowl out, I drilled all the way through, and I marked the holes on the inside. And after I got this thing mocked up, I took it off and ground off the primer on the inside of them holes, or where the holes were marked, so I could weld through from the inside. And again, when I finish this, I'm probably going to go ahead and put a row of screws across here because there's going to be body filler here anyhow. And so I figure if I put a row of screws right along the bottom there, then when he puts the filler in, he's going to cover them up anyhow, so no big deal. And I'll probably spot weld along this edge too all the way across and grind it smooth so it's nice and flat, and he can work with that. Now these, it was a little bit tricky getting this thing lined up. Around this windshield here, across the front here, it wasn't too bad. But I can tell you that I marked holes like every inch or 1.25 inches, and I took this thing off and I drilled all those out. That took a while. And then I ground off the back side of them where the flashing was from drilling. But when I welded across here, I literally took a pair of vice grips and clamped it right next to every single hole as I welded them. That way I knew it was tight. And as you can see, when you look at this seam now, it's tight all the way across the other side. It's tight, and that's how you want to do it. You want it to be real tight because you got a rubber seal that goes here, and you want it to fit really well there. So that worked out pretty well. And over here on this side, this pillar, once I got it pretty much positioned, it went in fairly easily, lined up pretty well, But when I welded this, when I welded both of these pillars, when I got them all installed and got ready to start welding, I noticed that this lip on both of them was sticking out further on the new one than it was on the old one. So I figured, okay, I thought, well, how am I going to fix that problem? And that one there was quite a ways out. And this one here I took, and I showed you guys how I clamped it in the vise to get this side fitted properly. Well, then I took it and I clamped it in the vise on this side, and I bent it out instead of in, trying to get it to line up better because it wasn't lining up. And it didn't work very well, so I ended up bending it back where it was, and it was still off here. So I'll tell you how I fixed that. So what I did is I welded, I made sure that all these seams were lined up the way they're supposed to be all the way around this. And you got several different what do you call it? I don't know. Several different curves here, several different surfaces. So you gotta make sure all this lines up all the way across. So I made sure that lined up all the way across, and I made sure it was flush here, and I welded it across the bottom all the way across. And then I came up to the top and I did the same thing. I made sure it was flush here, and I welded it all the way across the top as well. Well, then this side here was good. So again, I took a hammer and I tapped these down to where I knew they were tight, and I welded, and I took a pair of vice grips and clamped them beside each hole and welded them as I went down with the vice grips all the way down. And then I took the hammer again and flattened it out so I knew it was flat here. Okay, then that made this thing welded around 3 sides. So then what I did to get this flange here in alignment, I took a ball peen hammer and I would hit the very side, the very edge of this flange. I started tapping it in all the way up, and it was closer at the bottom than it was at the top. So and sometimes you got to hit it. Let me get this phone in my hand a little better. Sometimes you got to hit it pretty hard to get it to move. So I would hit it and work my way up, and I started out down here, and I went up about probably 4 or 5 inches and tapped it in until it was pretty well lined up, and then I welded maybe the 2 bottom holes. And I clamped vice grips on there and welded them. And then I took my hammer and I tapped on it again a little further up that time. And then I welded the next 2 holes up, and I kept working my way up it and just tapping it in, hitting it right on the edge of that flange like that to get that flange to move in, because it was welded on 3 sides. So if I hit it here, it's going to move. And it did. And I can show you guys how it turned out. So you can see now and there, these 2 flanges are pretty much even now. So that's good that it lined up like that. But that's how I had to do it, because both of these were off. So, but if you have this problem with these, a lot of people are going to be like, well, how do I fix that? Well, the easiest way to fix it is to do what I did, weld 3 sides, and then just hit it right on the edge of that flange all the way up and move it. You know, like I said, I started down here, and once I got the bottom pretty well lined up, I'd weld 2 holes, and then I'd tap it a little further up, then I'd weld 2 holes, and tap it a little further up, and weld 2 holes, and I kept moving my way up it, and when I got done, it's pretty much flush. Now this one over here was a little more difficult because it was way off up here. So when I started down here, I tapped it, and I got it to go in place, and I welded a couple holes, and then I moved my way up. But when I got up into here, I had to hit it pretty hard, you know, on the edge of this flange, and this flange is pretty stiff, because you've got compound bends here. You got a bend here, and you got a 9-degree bend there, then another 9-degree bend. So this is a pretty stiff, you know, it's a very narrow piece of steel sticking out there. So it's pretty stiff, so you can actually hit it pretty hard. And I was beating on it all the way up to, you know, right in there, and then I went and welded the next 2 holes up, and then I'd beat on it a little harder, and up here where the new one met the old one, it was sticking out probably, I want to say, 1/4 of an inch past this old lip where this lip came down. So it was sticking out, you know, about to there. And so I just hit it pretty hard. And you know, once I got to about the middle of it, I started going all the way up to the top and hitting it. And then I'd weld the next 2 holes, and I'd go, you know, all the way up to the top again, because I knew I needed to start working it in. So I just kept hitting that flange and pushing it in. Now you can see this here. Well, I don't know if you can see it very well or not, but this is in quite a ways here. It's not, this bend here going from here around to there is not a 9-degree bend. It's you know, it's in a little bit, but there's a rubber seal that's going to go in here, and it'll seal all that up. So that's not a big deal. It's not a problem at all, you know, but it worked out pretty well. I had to add extra weld right here to fill in, because with all that hammering on it, it kind of pushed this down, this right at the very end, it pushed it down a little bit towards the inside, and I had a little bit of a gap right in here. So I welded that gap shut, and then I added extra weld here and just ground it down smooth. It's not perfect, but the body man can fix that. That's not a big deal. So that's how I took care of those flanges. I mean, this pillar on the driver's side, I don't know if these were 2 different brands, but this one here was a nightmare. It didn't want to fit at all, and I had to really work it to get it to fit. But I finally got it to fit. It looks pretty good. And I was having a problem with it down here, and I remember I told you guys I had to notch this out. Well, I filled that in with weld and then ground it smooth, and as you can see, it's a real nice transition now. And again, I took my chisel, you know, the one I showed you that had a rounded edge to it, and I hammered this in because this was sticking out like out to here. So it was like a 1/2 inch off. So I had to push it in to get it lined up. And, you know, it goes in there a little bit, but again, there's going to be a rubber seal here. Well, yeah, the door seal is going to sit here, so, and it glues on, so it's going to cover all that up anyhow. So it isn't going to matter. The only thing I got to be concerned with is hopefully my door edge will line up with this. If it doesn't, then I'll have to work it or something. I'll figure that out when I get to it. But I mean, it lines up here really well, and these all this transition here, you know, it goes down and it lines up. I mean, everything looks really good the way it lines up. I don't see a problem with it. You know, I can't guarantee that, but I think it'll be fine. But we'll see when we get to the point where we put the doors back on. And I got to put the doors on before I can put those on. So I haven't put those on yet because I got to put the doors on. But anyhow, so that's where I'm at with that. So now I'm almost done with this cab, and I'm glad because when I put this hammer away, when I first saw pictures of this truck, my brother sent them to me, you know, in an email. He sent me pictures of this truck, and I was thinking, you know, he said, well, it needs a couple patches in the floor, you know, and he sent me pictures of it, it looked pretty good. And I was thinking I'd come down here and I'd have, you know, basically the truck ready to go to the paint shop in, you know, 2-3 weeks, maybe a month at the most. And then I'd spend the next month putting the frame together and putting it on the frame, you know, and by the end of February I'd be at home. Well, here it is, the middle of March, I'm still not done. So this has been a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. But it's, you know, it's coming along, it's getting there, and it's looking really good. One more thing I got to do. I mean, obviously I got to put the firewall in, but I'm not going to, remember I told you guys I'm not going to do that until I set this on the frame because I'm going to have the motor and transmission in there. I want to make sure everything lines up before I figure out where I'm going to put the firewall, because if I have to move it a little bit, I can. So, but one more thing I have to do before I am done with this cab, we got new drip rails. And I just got those, I think I got them yesterday, and I haven't even looked at them yet. So hopefully they're pretty decent. Hopefully they're shaped correctly. This one here is actually the driver's side. So it's going to go in here like that, and it looks like it fits really well. So what I'll do with it is I'll drill some small holes all the way around in it, and then I'll probably screw it to the railing, and then I'll take the screws out one at a time and weld the hole shut. But this shouldn't take me too long. So, but I'm glad I got these because that other ones just look horrible. This is going to look really good with these new drip rails now. And they fit really. They look like they fit great. And so I must have done something right because they match the contour of the pillars. So I guess it's all good there. So anyhow, that's what I'm going to work on tomorrow. I'm going to flip this cab over on its back again and work on putting these on. Then after that, I'm pretty much done with the cab, and I can start on getting that frame in here and get to work on next. I got a lot to do on it now. I got a couple weeks left before I have to leave. So hopefully I'll have it ready to go to the paint shop. I mean, this is all ready. Worst case scenario, you know, if push comes to shove, then I can send this thing, I can send the body parts to the paint shop and just have them put it in primer and not paint it. You know, have them do the body work on it, because there's some body work to be done to this, you know. Have them do the body work on it and fit everything up, and then put it in primer, and then later on when I come back down here, I can set it on the frame and then send it back to them to have it painted. So, I mean, it's not a big deal to me. You know, I'm sure my brother would probably rather I finish it up a little quicker than that, but I didn't know I was going to have to do all this work when I came down here. So, you know, that's what it is. But, so we got these drip rails to put on tomorrow, and once they're in place, we should be pretty much done with the cab. I showed you guys my speaker enclosures that I got back there, so I still gotta figure out the hold on a second here. Yeah, damn it. Gotta get this back in here so I can shut this box. These things are kind of fragile. I don't want anybody to bend them or anything, so let me get this out of the way. So the doors on this thing, they've got this cover that covers up the bottom hinge area. So this cover sits down at the very bottom of the door. It sits like this, the bottom of the door. So I think I ordered 4-inch speakers. I don't know why they aren't here yet, but they should be. But anyway, I ordered some little 4-inch Pioneer speakers, and I'm going to figure out where I can put a pair of them in the door. So this thing's going to have 6 speakers in it. Got four for the front, 2 for the back. So it ought to sound really good when I'm done. And again, the acoustic mat, I put acoustic foam behind these speaker enclosures, and I've got some more acoustic foam. I'm going to put it directly behind the speakers in the doors. I'm not going to put the hole inside the door with it because it's got to have the window roll up and down. But I'm going to put a little piece right with the speaker, right behind the speaker, so that the sound coming off the speaker doesn't rattle the door. So I got to work on these too, figure out where to cut the holes in them. I got to make sure I cut them in them, and I don't interfere with the window rolling up and down. So I may have to go look at another truck and see if there's a problem with that. I don't know. Hopefully there's not, because I got the speakers. I'd like to put them in here. But anyhow, that's where I'm done at tonight. I'm finished up here for tonight. So I'm all cleaned up, getting ready to go to bed. But I appreciate you guys watching. Tell me what you think. What do you think of this cowl installation? This is a bear, man. This thing's got a lot of contours to it, a lot of different, curves and bends and twists, and it's kind of hard to get it to go, but I got her there, so it's good to go. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.